He's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Miranda, I mean, fantastic scoop by you. If what Luft says is true, how does this change the course of the investigations, not just into Hunter, but into Joe?
Well, look, I think he's going to be a witness still. That's what James Comer wants to do. He was already in talks to be a witness when he was arrested. You know, he is a fugitive. Obviously, that discredits him somewhat, but perhaps that is the aim, to stop him, as he says, to stop him from testifying. The things that he told me about the Brussels meeting and other facts about the Bidens have been corroborated since he told me about them in other ways. He's given me a document to show that that Brussels meeting was in fact scheduled by the Southern District of New York. And, you know, he's described by people who knew him in Washington, D.C. as a credible person with deep intelligence ties. He founded and ran a sort of an energy think tank, which had as its advisors such luminaries of sort of Washington, D.C. life as the former CIA director James Woolsey, former NSA director Robert McFarlane. So he was well plugged into Washington, and he was, it is correct, I have verified that he was partners with the very Chinese from CEFC that Hunter Biden and his uncle Jim Biden were receiving money from, millions of dollars. And so I guess he had the access to be able to know that information. We've heard about an FBI mole before. He's now put flesh on the bones of that. It definitely is a serious set of allegations. They should have been investigated, and it appears yet again that they weren't. He would be the fifth whistleblower whose allegations about the Bidens were just buried by the DOJ.
Yeah, folks are blowing the whistle all over the place, and no one's hearing it. The game just continues. Mike, anyone involved in Hunter's corrupt business dealing, they're not going to be a Boy Scout. And Dr. Gall Luft appears to be no exception to that. But does that discredit his allegations in your mind? Or, I mean, there are going to be unsavory characters here if we're talking about these types of dealings.
I mean, we're talking about the Bidens. This is the Bidens who face an allegation that they took $10 million in foreign bribes and threatened to pull $1 billion in U.S. aid from Ukraine if the president didn't fire the prosecutor in Ukraine investigating Burisma and the Bidens. This is the Biden Justice Department that just cut a sweetheart deal with Hunter Biden on failing to file taxes and giving essentially a deferred sentence on a felony gun charge to cover up 2 years of millions and millions of dollars of alleged foreign corruption and bribes of the Bidens. I would say about this whistleblower, he named specific names, dates, places, amounts. The House Oversight and/or the House Judiciary Committee and/or the House Ways and Means Committee need to start issuing subpoenas for depositions of these people at the Justice Department, these 6 specific officials at the Justice Department that he named, and have them come in, provide their documents, get the embassy officials in Brussels, and run this down.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, Miranda, the left is surely, we know what their playbook looks like. They're going to try to downplay all of these allegations due to his shady past. But I don't remember the left ever having a problem with hyping, I don't know, like Michael Cohen as the star witness against Trump. I mean, they're shameless in this way. So will he get a chance to actually present this evidence either before the committee or in a way that the public will? I mean, there's so much smoke here, Miranda. But the question is, does anyone ever hear the whistle blown?
Look, he's on the run, and you heard him say he thinks he'll be on the run for the rest of his life. He tells me that he's really in fear of his life as well. So who knows if he can testify by, I don't know, remote video or by sending in a video. I don't know how Comer will figure that out. But what we do know is that the Democrats are absolute past masters at trashing every whistleblower that comes forward. And you're seeing in real time as they're doing it to the IRS whistleblower, Gary Shapley, a man with an impeccable record of honesty and integrity who has recovered billions of dollars for this country. And you just watch how they tear him down.
Yeah, they will. It's exactly right. Miranda and Mike, thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Big story. Well, the DOJ official who set up the affirmation Brussels meeting with this man, Luft, and the FBI was